Malcolm Hoenlein is in Jerusalem. I emphasize that because our weekly update is obviously much sought after and much anticipated every single week that we know. But when Malcolm is in Jerusalem, it lends an even extra special spirit, an extra special angle to having a conversation about what's happening with Israel and the Jewish world. So we get to speak with him from Jerusalem next. Malcolm Hoenlein is with us. As I said, he is in Jerusalem, Conference of Presidents of Major American Jewish Organizations. We call this the weekly update. Mr. Hoenlein, shalom, shalom. Welcome back to JM in the AM.
Shalom to you from the Holy City, where it is 63 degrees, just to rub it in. Last Shabbos, there was more than 60 degrees difference when we were in remote Beit Shemesh with my grandson and his family. And this Shabbos, it's going to be 64 tomorrow. And what is it in New York?
Well, are you aware?
So anybody who has excuses for Aliyah, get on the package now.
Are you aware of what we're expecting weather-wise in New York tomorrow on Shabbos morning?
You don't think they publicize that to everybody here constantly?
They are expecting a wind chill. First of all, they're expecting temperatures in the single digits tomorrow morning, folks. When I go to shul, I go really early. And they are expecting a wind chill below zero. So it should be a very, very interesting challenge. And Malcolm, why is it? Why is it that Tu B'Shvat is meaningless in Chutz La'aretz, no change of weather whatsoever, but it seems in Israel, even an early Tu B'Shvat turns the weather very spring-like? Tell me, what's the secret?
It's the Holy Land. It's Eretz Yisrael. It's Eretz HaKodesh, and it's where Tu B'Shvat is really celebrated, and it's amazing. For those who have been here know, but even secular Jews, everybody commemorates it. There are fruits everywhere. There were celebrations in cities and in the kibbutzim and all over. And that's because you live a Jewish calendar here. We don't live a Jewish calendar in the States. We experience the Yom Tovim and things, but here you're immersed in it. It's a real, every Chag is meaningful, every special day. That in the States, you get up, you go to work, you do all the things that you normally do. Here in the schools and everywhere, they have commemorations.
Wow. Malcolm is this close to declaring that mitzvos and observance only really count in the Holy Land, as many Torah giants have said over the centuries. I'm not saying you're saying that, Malcolm. I know you have some sympathy for those of us here in the United States and other parts of the diaspora, but it certainly sounds like you're alluding to that. And I hope you'll think of me. I hope you'll think of me tomorrow at about 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to be walking in those very winter-like conditions to synagogue while you're enjoying temperatures that are approaching 70 degrees. I hope you'll be thinking of us as all this is happening tomorrow.
We do, and we pray for a global warming for you. but
I'll tell you, there's a lot of things to pray for. Maybe that's among them. Malcolm, you've been in Israel for a few days. Sometimes we speak to you, and you've literally been there for hours. Sometimes we speak to you, and we get a perspective of having spent a good chunk of time there already. We have had many people on the air from Israel since the last hostage. The remains of Ron Gvili were returned or came back to Israel, or rescued from the enemy and came back to Israel. A lot of people describe it as a collective national sigh of relief. Just finally getting an opportunity to breathe again, so to speak. I'm wondering if you've picked up on the mood in the country, especially in light of the fact that now we stand at a time where, thank God, any Gaza hostage since 2014 has now been returned home.
So I think that there is a sense of closure with the return, and you notice that it became a national event. I mean, everybody talked about it. Every event was dominated by pictures of people removing the yellow bands from the president and prime minister down, and that the closure is a partial one. It's not. I do think that there's a sense of relief that the focus, and until he returned, it was like the wound was still open. Right. There are many open wounds, but this now sort of put a close on it and relieved the pressure that they had of always being able to manipulate the events by their control over the bodies, living first, and then those who were killed. And remember who killed them. But I would say that there are still too many outstanding issues, both in terms of those who are wounded and the PTSD problem and other things. It's still every day there are events in Hezbollah land and in Hamas land. There are shootouts. There are much more limited. But I think that everybody is just waiting with bated breath to what's going to happen in Iran. There are people who went up north, and there's both amazing demonstrations of resilience, but also a lot of challenges, economic challenges. Many people did not return. And the questions, will they? How can you provide adequate security for a city like Kiryat Shmona? These are all important places for the defense of Israel, for the fullness of the state, and we can't afford to write it off. So many things that there's going to be a new university built there in the north. A Canadian gave $50 million to start it. That will help. And if we can make it a high-tech center, if we can if the government sees to it that there is investment there, which is really essential because jobs will bring people back. And you certainly can't abandon the northern border. It's as strategically important as is the southern border, where a lot of people have gone, but not enough. So when people come and visit, go to the north, visit the communities there in Ma'alot, in Kiryat Shmona, across the board, and spend your tourist dollars there. But most importantly, show the people that we are with them. So that's a long answer to your question, but it's a very fundamental thing. And I've been looking at people and talking about it, that they look to the future. The economy is strong. The birth rate remains strong. All the indicators of national resilience, national strength are there.
The fact that people want to be paid in shekel, the fact that they want investments made in shekel, and if you look at if you look at the exchange rate, I mean, for those of us who remember the bad old days of the exchange rate, it's just remarkable what's going on with that. And we'll get back to Iran and Gaza in a moment because you skipped to the north, and I really got to address this for a second. People don't realize. I mean, just this week, for instance, underground Hezbollah weapon storage sites had to be destroyed by Israel. We always think, or many of us think, that the future up north is going to be stabilized by a stable Lebanese government who will have some type of control over Hezbollah, or at least keep them out of their formal government. We can't depend on any of that. And as these things are being built, as you told us, the universities, communities, etc., forget about Syria for a second. Just the Hezbollah presence in Lebanon is going to have to be dealt with.
Absolutely. And that's what I think is really critical about Hamas land too, and in Syria, that there has to be de-radicalization programs. There have to be serious controls exercised. I certainly don't trust Shara. I think we put the U.S. in particular to too many eggs in his basket. I think that the people there don't have the same confidence in his regime, that they are suppressing the minorities, but particularly the Kurds and the Druze, and threatening them every single day. And they have killed people, but we see return of some of the Islamist presence, with the way women dress and the restrictions on people. For Israel, that border is very critical, that if you have a quiet border with Syria, then that makes it easier for people to come back. And that's why the buffer zone is so important. When people ask me, what does Israel want the buffer zone? Are they going to build there? They're not going to build housing. It's not a land issue. It's a security issue. Now, same thing, and you were right to bring up Lebanon and the longer-term problem. The confiscation of weapons that we see by the Lebanese government, most of it in the Palestinian refugee camps and elsewhere. We're not seeing the big stockpiles of weapons that Hezbollah has, and still smuggling more from Iran and resupplies. And they have huge supplies in the Bekaa, the valley, and elsewhere. That this is all very critical for the long-term stability. You remember when they had the good fence, people would cross from Lebanon into Israel to Lebanon? Sure. I was there. I saw it. I mean, I went into Lebanon 3-4 times, aside from my formal visits, through the good fence and meeting with people there. The Hamas side, as you said, we're still seeing that Hamas retains its weapons. I don't think that the force that they have there is really capable right now of disarming them. And unless you have replaced them and that some of the plans that have been put forward are implemented, it remains a bit. Look what Israel finds just in the area they control now along the border: new tunnels, new stockpiles of weapons. A soldier was seriously wounded with being shot by terrorist snipers. And then they returned and bombed a site that was, right adjacent to the border. So we see that they are still as active as ever in this activity. So we have to do much more.
Are you doing another show while you're doing this one?
No, somebody knocked on the door. And I had a choice of either letting him knock until you finally say answer the damn door, or I just told him to be quiet.
Well, at least it worked out. And as I said, we'll get to Gaza, but we got to do the Iran piece. Malcolm, I'm so confused because I don't know who to believe is actually involved in these talks. I mean, the talks formally, and you'll confirm this or tell me I'm wrong, but formally the talks began today. Iran is sitting with somebody in the Middle East. Maybe there is U.S. presence at these talks, maybe not. You got to tell us that. And it looks like some type of negotiation has begun, and it looks like ideally, and I don't know if you agree with this, but it looks like right now, ideally, the U.S. would prefer if some type of negotiation would lead to an agreement with Iran. So first, have the talks begun? Was today significant? Is the U.S. present at those talks? And am I right that would be the U.S. preference?
So that's 3 or 4 questions, all of which are very pertinent and things that I've been discussing all day today, actually since early in the morning, trying to ascertain, and in my discussions earlier in the week with Israeli officials, the government leaders. So, and there's a lot of things they're not sure what the United States does. The U.S. now favor regime change. Till now, they have not, as you know.
Right.
And that's really a critical change, that if they now accept regime change, they have to plan you can't leave a void, because you could get the IRGC, Basij, somebody else coming in who will be just as bad or worse. But the problem is that they will have the support of the international community. They'll say, well, you got rid of Khamenei. Now you got to support them like they support Shara in Syria. So it's really not the remedy, I think, for and speaking to the Druze and Kurds there and the others who are very scared and of his associations. So we have to make sure that there's no void. There was supposed to be a meeting tomorrow of opposition leaders from Iran, from outside of Iran, but I'm not sure that meeting will take place now. So number one, the question is, what is the U.S. policy? Will they go for regime change at any cost and do what's necessary for it? I think that the movement of the ships and the fact that Americans have been told to leave Iran again today by land routes and whatever way they can get out, that seems to be, to me, an escalation. But I don't have clarity yet as to, and I think that there are divisions within the administration as to what the right policy will be. Should it be one of accommodation? Do we take an assertive role to bomb the leadership? And how do we find somebody or some group? And that's why the group that was supposed to meet in Florida would have been one, because they represent all the different segments. Remember, Iran is not a unitary country. You got 30 million Azeris, 12 million Baluchis. You have more than half the population are not Farsi. They're not Persians. So, it's very hard to bring them all together. And, of course, under the terrible economic conditions, the lack of water, lack of electricity, all those things compound the problem. So what started as an economic thing, and when Reza Pahlavi, and I have to acknowledge, when he called for people to come out, millions came out. So some who in the past, did not support his playing a predominant role are today much more sympathetic to that, and that he could be at least a symbolic figure and maybe a unifying the presence amongst all of the groups if they come together.
So there
the U.S. is present, just to finish, because he asked a lot of questions, and I have to remember them. The U.S. is present in the discussions in Oman, together with the foreign minister of Iran. What was not there is Egypt and Turkey and the others who were supposed to be present in their first talks, but it seems the Iranians didn't want them there, so they changed to these talks. But I think that you see some of the statements from the administration, whether they're meant to put pressure on Iran or not, seem to indicate displeasure that Iran and Khamenei will not make a deal. I don't believe he would sign a real deal which would eliminate the nuclear program, which is a source of pride and symbolism, and the ballistic missiles, which they don't even want to talk about, and their aggressive behavior in the region. So the United States is now negotiating with them. We can't go back to a JCPOA. We can't go back. We learned the lesson of the price we pay. The people are disappointed that there's been no echo when thousands and thousands of them were killed and millions went into the streets. They did not feel that there was a resonance in the West that stood up with them and for them. But it was the call of Pahlavi. What started earlier was not his. It was the Bazaris coming out. But certainly his call for a certain time, 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and you saw millions, literally millions, though the press didn't report it, came out for the demonstrations.
It's America's one and only Jewish Moments in the Morning radio program, heard on listeners-sponsored digital radio around the world, the web at NachumSegal.com, on the Nachum Segal Network, and, of course, on the beloved NSN app. Support the great work we do by going to our annual campaign page, fjbunity.org, fjbunity.org. Malcolm Hoenlein is in Jerusalem. I mean, have you seen the videos? Have you seen the footage that's coming out about how they put down these protesters and what they did to them? I mean, some of them are impossible to watch, frankly. And of course, nobody in the world, including the United Nations, condemns any of this activity. I mean, now I assume it's stopped, right? Now I'm assuming that the terrible violence against the protesters has ended. Is that accurate in Iran?
No. They are still hunting down demonstrators. They have pictures of them. They are, using all sorts of means, computers and hidden cameras and technology to track down people. We think they're still arresting, and we believe they are executing. The number executed, we don't know. Some say it's in the tens of thousands. Some say it's 15,000. Whatever it is, it's a huge number. And, of course, the demonstrations at Columbia and NYU and all those places that are such great human rights advocates, really overwhelm us by their intensity. The fact that young people, most of the victims were young people, which should have also inspired them. And the number of wounded, Nachum, is astronomical because they trained for this. The Basij and the police, they trained for it, and they shot for the eyes and for the head.
Oh, God.
And I saw those pictures, and that's some of the ones that you're referring to.
Yeah.
I can only watch the first second, and then I got to shut it off. But the piles of body bags and the eye doctors, by the way, who treated people who are wounded are now being rounded up and arrested as well. And so people who think that somehow this is going to be a reformed place, no, there has to be a total change if we're going to see a new Iran, which could emerge, and the people would support it if it emerged, and it would be could be a constructive part of the region, and certainly change so many things, like the Houthis, like the Hezbollah, like Hamas. Without the mothership, they will not be the same.
I mean, you seem to feel that there's some type of split in Washington about how to proceed when it comes to the Iranians. Diplomacy versus.
Absolutely, I do feel that. I think that.
And that's my question: is it a feeling, or do we know this as a fact? Like, I mean, is the president and the Secretary of State on the same page, for instance?
Well, the president, I think, is just listening to everybody, and he sends mixed signals, but that could be a tactic. We've seen it in the past where they feigned one way or another. But look, he's brought out tremendous firepower. It's the armada, as he called it, of ships that are there in the region. It takes time to get all the ducks lined up to be able to protect our bases, to have all of the power, and especially when Saudi Arabia, even others, Qatar, won't let them fly over their airspace in an attack on Iran. America could do a good job without that. But also Azerbaijan even joined, and they're a strong ally of the United States because of the regional pressures that are on them. And I don't know if at the moment of an attack that nobody's going to shoot down an American plane. So your question, though, there is a split. I think that J.D. Vance is the ones. I think Rubio is more supportive. Lindsey Graham is more supportive. I hear that some of the special envoys are not. There is divisions. Look, there are legitimate debates, but not today. Today, this regime has to come down after what they did, and if they survive this, you can be sure that the crackdown against the civilian population is going to be awful against the minorities and majority population.
But I think you're the only source who has even suggested that there's someone who could actually replace the current regime. One of the biggest problems, and we've discussed this now for weeks, one of the biggest problems is you really had nobody who could step in this revolutionary leader role. Is that different now? Do you feel someone actually could?
You're really picking up an important nuance, and or maybe even more than that. Look, I don't know if he has the capability to be the long-term ruler, but he certainly can be a transitional leader and be a figurehead who could remain afterwards, in that position. And maybe they will elect a government and they'll go to elections. We'll have to see. But his power in pulling the people became evident in the demonstration that we did not see before. Right. I think that the administration is not convinced that one way or the other. There are people on both sides. There are people in Iran who remember the days of the Shah without not feeling as warmly. We do more because after the revolution, things deteriorated so quickly. So it's understandable that there's splits, but this now requires a unified approach. That's really what's necessary, both unified internally in Iran, externally with the groups who are working against the regime, and with the West, and particularly with the United States. Look at Europe. They're doing nothing. All of the deaths and all of this thing. And here you have the most vicious regime in the world, and they're sitting on their hands. So all of the crocodile tears about human rights and all that, you see that it's all fake. It's only if there's a Jew involved, if Israel's involved, they condemn. And here there's massive activities, and you see nothing.
Maybe the Board of Peace can appoint somebody to be the next leader of Iran.
Maybe, but maybe.
Come on, Malcolm, that was a great line. Come on.
I said maybe.
The Board of Peace. We'll get into that folly if one is ready to admit that it is one in a couple of minutes. I mean, look, you're in Jerusalem. You know what's most frightening. We know all of us are connected in some way to the Holy Land with people that we care about. I mean, you don't want to see a military action by the United States that's obviously going to have a response of these ballistic missiles and other types of missiles that are going to be aimed at and shot at Israel. And, earlier you said that with the Armada, as he described it, that could be, you didn't use the word bluff, but I think you said something similar to that. And I'm wondering, say it again?
I said feigning.
Right, correct. And I'm wondering, with the demand or the strong suggestion now that every American get out ASAP. It was even stronger language than ASAP. Oh, yeah. I think they said immediately, that everyone get out immediately. And with the aftermath of Venezuela still in the air, because without that whole Venezuela episode, I don't know if anybody in Iran would even suspect that the United States would actually, have any success in a military regime change. But that, of course, is looming over the whole thing. They saw what happened over there. So with all these threats, whether they're veiled or not, is it possible that there will be some type of back down from Iran because of all these threats, and our brothers and sisters in Israel won't have to run to shelters all night long for a couple of weeks?
Israel and the people of Israel do not want to see this not have a conclusive outcome. Do not want to see that this regime can continue to threaten them. They need to see something that says you're going to have quiet days and quiet nights, and you're not going to have to mobilize for raids and stuff. So I am not so much afraid of the ballistic missile or the nuclear program that they're going to have a weapon. I don't think they have the weapon now to use, and we got to destroy the system before they do. But I think Israel is prepared to take the actions necessary to prevent and to take out again the missile capacity, which, as you see, they emphasize even more than the nuclear because it's a more immediate threat. We saw it before. We're going to see it again. But I think that it's more limited now. I think that a lot of their capacity was destroyed. It's not complete. I think that they will go after the supreme leader who is, living underground in these tunnels. He has 17 connected ones that are super reinforced, and his son is in a different one.
It's Venezuela 2.0, but it's a million times more difficult.
Well, I want to come to that in a second, but I just think that it's easy to say that we have regime change. It's not so easy to carry out because, again, you have to worry about the day after. You have to worry about the circumstances in the country. We don't want to see massacres. We don't want to see the besieged going out, unfettered, just murdering people as they did during those days. And the movies the pictures that you reference are only a sampling of how barbaric they are. So history teaches us that the worst thing is to leave a vacuum because you can often get an outcome that is worse than, even though it's hard to think of that in the current circumstance. Yeah. I think there's also not enough attention paid to what happened in Venezuela, but more the revolution. And I had a chance here to meet with some South American diplomats and officials. There was an event in Washington with the foreign ministers of a bunch of South American countries. It's amazing. South America, which was going against us, all of these countries now, one by one, are falling in line back into the Costa Rica, Honduras, Ecuador, one after another. And if Venezuela is neutralized and we continue to put the pressure on, Bolivia is renewing ties with Israel, that if Venezuela, and that is Iran's, forefront in South America, that will be a radical change in the defense of America, and also in terms of relationships with Israel, trade, other things. And, they have been a source of a lot of fear because weapons and smuggling, drugs, all those things coming from South America. We could see a radical change in that. So this is all in the Western Hemisphere. Then Middle East changing. I mean, I think that the global implications will be immense if they can carry it out. And then the president, I think, will be guaranteed that Nobel Prize.
And if the Nobel Committee is, brave enough to actually give it to him.
Yeah, right.
And then, and the Abraham Accords will stay stable. I mean, the countries that are in the Abraham Accords will be happy to see Iran fall at the hands of the United States.
Well, as you know, I'm going to Central Asia next week, and we're going to meet some of the countries. They are all, I think, ready to participate. I think more countries, and even if they don't sign peace agreements right away, they'll sign trade agreements. They can do a lot of other things as interim steps as we build it. But, we were in touch with Greece and Cyprus. We see that coalition strengthening all the time. The UAE has remained steadfast throughout this period. Their flights were not canceled. Azerbaijan has 20 flights a week between Israel and Baku. 20 flights a week. They replaced Turkish Air, which used to have, 13, 15, 17 flights, depending on what time of the year. And they are screaming now because they're losing. It was the most profitable route. So these countries, people don't know them. They don't understand why Kazakhstan is important or Uzbekistan. All these countries saved hundreds of thousands of Jews during World War II and did not get much acknowledgement. But these could be a buffer against Iran, a buffer against Russia, and a counterpart to the Road and Belt Initiative of China. But all those fronts, this could have great significance.
Wow.
And people mock the Somaliland deal. They don't understand it. They don't understand that this could be a strategic location that when the Houthis now threaten to attack Israel, that Israel can hit them back with drones. Yeah. They don't need missiles and fly, and they don't have to fly 1,700 miles, the same distance as to Iran, because if they can establish a base there or work with them, even though that is not happening now, but that all of those are future developments which I think can make a big difference.
Boy, the Russia piece you mentioned, we could spend an hour talking about that. I'm glad.
But look at, by the way, just in one note, look at Russia and China are not rallying to Iran's defense.
Right. Yeah.
Notice how quiet they are.
Yeah. And Trump realizes that, right? I mean, it's not like I'm not okay. I'm just sometimes you have to.
I don't know what he was briefed on, but yes,
sometimes you have to overstate the obvious with him. But I guess he realizes that they're as quiet as anything. I wonder if it's going to have an effect on Russia and Ukraine if they keep going in this direction, especially if the United States does take the military action.
And the strongest weapon we have is his unpredictability. It always was in wars. Right. You know, when Bush 2 had 150,000 troops in Iraq, we had the Iranians on their knees. They were so scared that they thought he was actually going to invade, and it could have done, and they weren't prepared. Right. And so as President Trump is seen as unpredictable, that, you know, he says things and he does them. And I hope in this case he will do them.
And you know where else you have to be thankful to him? I'm sure you've seen these reports about Hamas leaders who said they were planning on holding on to the hostages for at least 10 years and using them as pawns and negotiating, for them for whatever length of time. And believe me, folks, if you think about it for a minute, even though it's hard for us to fathom this because all of us always thought that these hostages are going to be returned, at the first available moment. If you look at, recent Jewish history, they've used plenty of opportunities to keep hostages for years and years, and even remains for years and years, in order to gain an upper hand. And I think we have to acknowledge that the only reason they're all back within a period of whatever it was, 27 months, is because of President Trump. Are you willing to say it like that, Malcolm?
I'm willing to say that he played a very critical role, and it's true that their leadership, but of course it was Israeli soldiers and you can't dismiss that part of it. Right. But I do think on the diplomatic front, absolutely, the pressure that he brought to bear consistently and demanding that, as in stage one, it's also the disarmament, which we haven't yet seen, but he keeps repeating those commitments. So hopefully that will be implemented as well. And
until the last hostage did not let go. I thought for sure he would just, stop talking about it when there was the remains of one hostage that remained in Gaza, but he was relentless. He never stopped talking.
And I think what you're saying something else is that he took it very personally, that you could see the sincerity, and Mrs. Trump met with the Segals, and people saying, it was a promotional thing. And she said, what do you mean promotional thing? They call me their hostages. We love each other, and they loved her. And because she stood up, and the president consistently kept the hostages on the front line, and he met with them repeatedly at the White House. I mean, there were a few Americans, but many of them were not Americans. Right. And yet he consistently kept this issue on the front pages.
And we haven't even spoken really about the future of Gaza. The prime minister has certain thoughts. He will not allow, based on a statement that he made this week, and I don't know what the U.S. position is on this. You may have more insight. He will not allow the PA to have any role in the future, however the future of Gaza is negotiated, they will not be part of it. Plus, I think the PA announced this week that they are going to new elections or something. Am I right about that?
Parliamentary elections, I think, in September. They had a voter registration drive, and it was supposed to be sooner, but now it looks like, I think it's in the early fall, if I'm not mistaken.
Is this going to be any type of game changer? I mean, does the United States claim that the PA must be involved in a Gaza rebuild?
So we don't know yet how Israel's very adamant against it, and rightly so, because they know that their track record, and it has to be something clean. The UAE has offered and has asserted that they were prepared to take it over.
Wow.
And to run it. I think that is something Israel would accept.
Yeah.
Again, I think the UAE deserves recognition that they didn't cancel their flights and that they maintained the Abraham Accord commitments throughout, as did Morocco and Bahrain, even when others waffled. And they, I think, deserve that very strong recognition. But they offered to administer it, and that means that they would bring investment. Others, I will probably not accept that. I think Turkey and others would probably want to have a say. Israel doesn't want Qatar and Turkey on the ground there. The U.S. does want them involved. So all of these things have to be negotiated out. But look, there has to be a concerted effort. Number one, that if there's a leadership that comes in and has to disarm, they know that the Palestinian Authority is not about to disarm. They didn't disarm them in the territories now that they control. They're certainly not going to do it there. There's so much corruption and stuff there. And I don't think the people, if you look at the poll in Gaza, they don't have any confidence in this. And so we need a really new group, somebody that will be accountable and responsible, that you have the peace board and all the other setups, the National Governance Council, I think it's called, something like that. These are all very critical as to provide new leadership that will come in there and stabilize this region, maybe build it up, and if there's billions of dollars in investment. But we saw that when Israel left the greenhouses, when they left other things to them, they destroyed everything. So if you don't want to have a redux of that, you have to have new leadership, perhaps people from the outside, with real authority that will assure that it doesn't become another cesspool for terrorism.
Right. Hate to end by reminding you about the Mamdani administration, but what did you think of the appointment of Felissa Wisdom to take the role of, what do they call it, anti-Semitism czar or director of the Office of Anti-Semitism?
Right. It's certainly not a czar, and I think I think her name should be lack of wisdom, that the appointment was insulting, inappropriate. If you want to bring somebody who will build bridges, etc. I mean, he has been making a lot of statements every time there was an anti-Semitism event, but in the first month, anti-Semitism attacks were up 185%. I think that speaks volumes, and he doesn't back off his anti-Israel comments. I think we all agree that Jessica Tisch has done a great job. We agree that others have, but the appointments in the administration certainly are not giving people a sense of confidence about the change. And, even as we see ties to Epstein, all sorts of things that are coming out that, are divergent from the real thing. And that is, did he shovel the snow? And I think in most communities that I hear, the answer is no.
Well, what do people on your block tell you? I mean, are you going to come back to a car that's completely underneath piles of snow, or have you been dug out already at this point?
Well, I'm dug out from the last one because before I left, I already moved it. But I understand the new one, but many roads and many of the streets. I'm honorary chair of the Flatbush Jewish Community Coalition, and we get the complaints. Many people were complaining that the snow was not removed, and then you have big pile-ups at school bus stations and corners, and that's an invitation to accidents or to injury.
Yep.
So far, I think that he did not get a passing grade on it. And you remember what it did to Lindsay.
Yep.
We'll see.
Man, the way we're going, we're going to be walking to the Pesach Seder with snow around us because I don't see this stuff going away too quickly. Well, I made a mistake. I should have spent this Shabbos in Jerusalem with you. Maybe I would have gotten Levi at the Great Synagogue. Are you there at the big synagogue tomorrow?
This Shabbos, we have a very special Shabbos at the Great Synagogue, and yes, I will be there as president because we have the Shabbat for the Druze, because Parshas Yitro, right. Yitro is their religious leader, the person point of reference.
Right.
And so on Parshas Yitro, we invite them 100 people. Druze leaders are coming tomorrow to the synagogue. We do a lunch for them. The mayor of the city is coming. Others are coming to speak. They have the Chazanim and the choir. It'll be a beautiful Shabbos. A lot of people come for it. But, because of it, others started recognizing them on this weekend. But we're the only ones tomorrow morning that will have them actually in shul. And it's so moving. I was there last year for the first time. It's incredible. So Parshas Yisro is very important at the Great Synagogue.
Yeah, humor me, Malcolm. It's my bar mitzvah Sedra. Humor me. I would have gotten Levi if I would have been with you. Come on, humor me.
Guaranteed. And Mufter.
Wow, he's giving me both. Amazing. Maybe next year I'll reconsider.
Sarasa Dibros is taken, but everything else is...
Well, that one I don't think I don't have the lineage that would let me get that one. Malcolm Hoenlein from Jerusalem. Will you reveal what city you'll be in next week, assuming you'll be able to join us?
I will be back from Baku that Friday morning, so I will be available Friday afternoon for our weekly get-together.
Enjoy Shabbat.
With an update on Central Asia.
And we're looking forward to that. Enjoy Shabbat in Jerusalem, and thanks so much for joining us. Malcolm Hoenlein, everybody. In Jerusalem, Conference of Presidents of Major American Jewish Organizations. We call this the Weekly Update.